911, what is your emergency?
Help! There's a reporter here, and she's threatening to expose all my boss's secrets while we're high on drugs.
God forbid women do anything.
That's the one. That's the one. We got it. Okay, we racked our brains for that intro so hard.
That was the most trouble we've ever had coming up with an opening bit. We're off today. Something's off.
Yeah, something's off today. Something's in retrograde. I don't know what it was. It's just like something about like, I don't know if it was the episode or the calls themselves or something, but like it was like we were fully able to come up with concepts and ideas for the intro. We just like couldn't come up with the punchline.
Maybe we were dosed with something.
Oh my God. It was us. We were... Can you imagine horrifyingly, like in the middle of the episode or towards the end, Angela Bassett just turns to the camera and goes, "Turns out you were dosed all along." And then you start to feel the full effects.
If I were on something and watching that, I would lose my mind.
Literally, yeah. It's like nightmare scenario. I got really high the other night and watched Alien. Mm-hmm. Which is a very interesting film to watch when you're high, because like I was also like I was drunk on white wine of all things, and I was like hanging out with someone, and like we were just like watching Alien, and I was like starting to sympathize with the xenomorph. I was like, why are they trying to hunt him down so bad? He's just doing what he knows.
Exactly. And that's beautiful that you were able to experience that perspective.
Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to say is I was dosed.
You were dosed.
I had a recent dosing experience, which just so happens to also be the title of this episode, Dosed.
That's right. Good transition, Ryan.
Thank you very much.
Today, we are discussing 911, Season 2, Episode 6, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Dosed. Yeah. This was the first episode we've done where, like, I had no idea what the episode was until I went on Hulu and pulled it up. Like, most of them so far, I've been like, oh, of course, Season 2, Episode 4. Okay, I said that and then forgot what Season 2, Episode 4 was. Stuck. It was stuck. How could I forget?
It was stuck. Of course.
But, you know.
With Gloria. Wait, that wasn't with Gloria. No.
No, Gloria was Awful People.
No, she was Awful People, but she did get stuck.
She did get stuck. Yeah, true. Uh-huh. It's like they bleed together a little bit. But yeah, today's was the first one where I got to Hulu and I was like, oh, yes, it's the Dosed episode.
I had the same experience where like I didn't even realize like what happened in the episode. I didn't put two and two together because I remember this episode so vividly from my initial watch through, and then seeing like the clips of it on Twitter. This episode has given us many famous clips from this show. And at the same time, like I was like just looking at the thumbnail and the weirdly brief episode description on Hulu. Did you notice that like the description for this episode was like one sentence long, like a short, like almost terse sentence? Whereas like all the
let me find it. Dosed was it is really terse. It's the first responders race to the rescue of a crashed news copter, which for the record is like the first 5 minutes of the episode and none of the rest of it.
That's like the first 5 minutes, and also it's the things that happen in this episode are so crazy that like by the time you get to that point of like watching the rest of the episode, you completely forgot about the news chopper call at all.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Reminds me, though, I have wanted to point out for a while that, like, just go on Hulu right now and look at a few episode descriptions of 911 and look at how many of them say the first responders or the 118 or whatever race to the rescue ... because so many of them say that. Episode 4, Stuck, the first responders race to the rescue, race to rescue victims trapped in various tight spots. Dosed is the first responders race to the rescue of a crashed news copter.
And episode 8, Buck gets back into the dating scene.
Equally exciting.
Equally exciting. For me, anyways. I don't know who's writing the episode descriptions, but it's just so funny how uneven they are, because some of them are full paragraphs.
I know. Some are really short and some are really long. Episode 2. When a massive earthquake rocks Los Angeles, the first responders rush to rescue victims from a crumbling high-rise hotel. I just think it's funny.
Well, they are always racing. They're always rushing. They are always doing things very quickly. That is true.
True. Well, not so quickly that they're like rushing, and doing a sloppy job.
Yeah.
Season 1, Episode 4, Bobby and the team race to save the survivors on a deadly plane crash. Episode 5, the crew races to an emergency when disaster strikes at an Indian wedding.
Oh, again, the opening scene of that episode.
True. I mean, I didn't read the whole description, but yeah. Ooh, Trapped. The first responders race to help a homeless man crushed in a garbage truck, etc., etc.
That is true. They did do that. They did race. They literally raced it because they were racing against the garbage truck.
That's true. That one is a good use of race.
Yeah, that's very like it's got layers to it.
Uh-huh.
But this is a fun episode. I'm looking forward to talking about this one because as I was watching it, I had multiple moments of I was like, "Oh, this is that episode?"
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of significant things happen.
Yeah, I completely forgot that 2 of these plots ran parallel to each other.
Right.
And so I just had them filed away as different episodes, kind of like the creepy AF and tapeworm guy type beat. And so like watching it was a very sort of surreal experience. So I'm kind of excited to just dive into it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think this one is a really fun one. As I think I've said before, I love the episodes that are just like a bunch of crazy calls. I like the ones that are not overly serious. And I feel like this one has its serious moments for sure. But it has a lot of levity. So I like that about Dosed.
It's got a really healthy balance. I would definitely agree with that.
A good dose of humor to drama.
I do want to disclaim here at the top, though. Listen, guys. I know we make long episodes. It's good for a commute. And we are very grateful to all of our listeners. But please, if you are listening to our podcast while you are driving your car, just be very careful.
Stop. You are calling out one specific person. They're going to feel so attacked. Oh my God.
I want to make a general blanket announcement for the entire pod.
We definitely didn't receive one comment from someone saying they crashed their car while listening to our podcast.
I don't want to think it was our fault.
Did you see we got another comment from them with an update?
Oh, wait, we did? Let me see it right now.
So a day ago, Bien's, sorry, we are calling you out by name, but it's just your Spotify username, so that's probably not your real name. Bien says...
Can you imagine that's their government name? Their full government name?
Bien's with a Z is your government name. Anyway, they commented, love listening to these while riding my bike to work since my car is still broken, smiley face.
I'm seeing it right now.
Unfortunately, on Spotify, like, you can reply to people's comments, but they can't reply back, I don't think. So
yeah,
I did reply to their first comment saying, was it our fault? As in, was the car crash our fault? But they weren't really able to say anything back. I thought about tweeting about it, but, you know. I
just want to say for insurance purposes, I did post about it on my Instagram story. I just want to say for insurance purposes, we claim no responsibility or legal liability in the crashing of this car.
Always be careful when operating heavy machinery and listening to the First Respodcast.
And definitely don't do it while dosed.
Yeah, definitely don't do it while dosed.
This has been a PSA.
This has been a PSA. Sorry about your car.
We hope you get that fixed, Diva. Thanks for listening. Keep listening.
If we were like Mr. Beast, we could send you a free First Respodcast branded car. But unfortunately, we're not at that level yet financially.
Oh my God. Imagine that's like a Patreon tier reward.
If you pay us $50,000 a month, we will send you a car.
Okay, if you pay us $50,000 a month, we genuinely will send you a car.
No, that's what I'm saying, because at that point we could afford one.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, we will send you a car if you pay us $50,000 a month. Cash pigs, get out your wallet.
Although, not to play devil's advocate, but if you have the $50,000 lying around, you could just buy your own car.
Or, you know, even just hire a driver so you can listen to it without driving. Like, you know, I'm just saying, man, like, we claim no legal liability for the crashing of this car.
I hate to say it, but I think we're getting a little sidetracked.
Oh no, not the side trucking.
I want to talk about something far more important than car accidents. No offense to that one listener. I want to talk about Madney Begins.
Yes!
Which may or may not be the title of this episode. We might end up naming it something else, like if we decide one of these jokes is funny enough to be referenced in the title instead. But
just know, spiritually, the title is Madney Begins.
Yes, spiritually, the title will be Madney Begins, because let's talk about the very first scene in this episode being the beginning of Madney.
Sponsored by Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah, I guess.
No. Did you? So before we get into the scene, did you hear the story? This might just be the fandom truth that Jennifer Love Hewitt, like, she like caught wind of the plans to pair Maddie up with Eddie. That was like the initial plans.
Crazy work, by the way. If that was ever a real plan, crazy idea to pair Maddie up with Eddie.
Eddie adding Maddie to the list of women whose lives he's ruined.
Ugh, I would never forgive him. It's also bad because their names are too similar, which I feel like is just a bad setup for a ship.
There would literally be no ship name. The ship name would be Eddie or Maddie.
It could be Maddie, but that's like barely a ship name. It's just Eddie with an M on it.
It's like how Quinn and Finn's ship name on Glee is Fwyn.
Fwyn. Yeah. Anyway, for reasons beyond just the ship name, Maddie and Eddie would have been a terrible idea. And of course, Jennifer Love Hewitt, being the astute and intelligent woman she is, apparently was also able to see this and said, no, people who write this show, I want Maddie to be paired up with Chimney. I think that would be cute. And the rest is history. We owe so much to her because that was literally genius. She should be writing her own shows.
And that's on being a powerful woman in Hollywood, because if there's one thing about getting Jennifer Love Hewitt on your show, you do not say no to Miss Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah, you're going to listen to her when she has demands.
Exactly. Especially when they're as cute and as good of an idea and as enduring of an idea as Maddie and Chimney.
She deserves, like, a creator credit.
Dead ass! She deserves EP at least for that.
Yeah.
But the episode opens and Maddie is getting settled into her new place. Chimney is helping her set up her security system. They kind of like are just having a little conversation about it. He's like telling her, you know, the security is really robust. It's airtight. Not even Tom Cruise could get in unless you've got his knock list. I haven't seen the Mission Impossible movies in so long. So I have absolutely no idea what he's referencing.
Yeah, Maddie has no idea what he's referencing, because if you'll remember from when we first met Josh, Josh called her a reader because she didn't know any of his TV show references. So Maddie's not that caught up with pop culture, and so she doesn't know what Chimney's talking about. And she's like, I've never seen Mission Impossible. And Chimney's like, wow, that's a shame.
Maybe an opportunity is forming here. You know, when like you're at the like the fledgling stages of something with someone, and you're like, ooh, we should watch that together or something. You know what I mean? It's like, or like the ideas.
I would not know, but I believe you that it happens.
And so it's like, ooh, they could watch Mission Impossible together. Interesting.
So they're kind of picking up a vibe, and meanwhile, Buck and Eddie are outside being like fucking Dumb and Dumber, the two dumbest moving people of all time.
They're so stupid.
They're so stupid.
I hate them so much.
They're trying to get a couch through a couch. The beginning of Couch Theory. They're trying to get a couch through Maddie's door. And they're like, it won't fit. And Maddie's like, I measured it. Why don't you just turn it the other way? And Buck's like, well, then the pizza will fall off. Instead of moving the pizza to a different location.
So stupid. I hate him.
They're literally, this is one thing I like about the writing of Eddie, is I feel like, I said this in my video, like, it'd be easy to make it be like, Eddie's the normal guy to Buck's dumb guy. But no, they're usually being dumb together. Because there's like a moment here where, you know, before Maddie shows up, they're like, we could take the hinges off the door, and Buck's like, or
No,
we could use the
literally, yeah.
jaws of life. And you see Eddie on his face like he's considering it. He doesn't just immediately go, that's a stupid idea. Even though it's like, what would you use the jaws of life for in this situation? It doesn't seem like they're joking. Anyway.
No, I mean, Eddie and Buck are such like a dangerous duo, like for that reason that I'm just like, if Buddy ever gets canon, like I'm genuinely worried for the safety of the people of LA. Like you can't let these two freaks loose on the town together. Like Buddy can't happen for like the purposes of national security. I just like, I'm sorry. No, I'm saying that as a Buddy shipper. I want Buddy to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah. I love them.
But yeah, you have to make sure that they like always hire like a contractor or something if they're trying to do renovations on their house. Don't let them do anything by themselves. Well, so they get inside the house, whatever, and Eddie's like, where should I put the pizza? Maddie's like, the kitchen. He leaves. Chimney's like, where's your beer? Maddie's like, also in the kitchen. He leaves, and it's just Maddie and Buck together. And Maddie is like, he is so cute. Buck is like, interestingly, Buck is like, oh yeah, he gets that all the time. You should see his kid. And Maddie goes, Chimney has a kid? So this is an incredible moment because it's both a Madney beginning moment and a Buddy moment. Because it's like, on the one hand, Maddie has a crush on Chimney. That's so cute. It's like kind of a bait and switch because the show has like makes you think that of course she would like Eddie, but no, obviously she's bonding with Chimney. And then for Buck, it's like, why would he just assume that?
Why would he say that?
Why would he say that?
You know, it could mean nothing. It could genuinely mean nothing.
It could.
You know?
It could. Then we go to kind of a little sequence of Maddie, like at her first night at her place. She keeps being woken up by noises that she's hearing, just like a dog barking, something outside, because she obviously is still really on edge after having left her abusive marriage. So she's kind of like, you know, she hears the wind chimes going and she like goes to the front porch with a baseball bat. Like, she's really not...
Very Styles move of her. Very Styles core. Did you catch that?
Yeah, it is kind of Styles-esque. But she's clearly like not really feeling secure, even though she's put all this distance between her and Doug.
Yeah, because like what's sort of, I guess, significant about this is that it's like the first time she's sort of sleeping in an apartment all by her own, you know, since she left Doug. And since she got to LA, because she's been living with Buck. And so she's feeling very paranoid that like every noise outside could be him, you know, to the point where like she's literally not only sleeping with her baseball bat in her hand, but sleeping like fully clothed and like ready to like, you know, run. I mean, she also, did he clock that she's sleeping with heels on?
I didn't really notice, but that's crazy.
Is she sleeping like in her full work uniform, like with like the maroon shirt and and her like heeled boots and a baseball bat in her hands, just like ready to run in case anything happens? And so it's just very clear that Maddie is going through a rough time with this transition. But we get the title card out of that.
Yes, we get the title card and then go straight into a 911 call. And it's sort of a funny little call where, you know, they're like, 911, what's your emergency? And the voice on the other line says, this is Taylor Kelly with your morning traffic update, and we are going down. I love that she was like in character on the call.
Oh my
very
God.
funny.
She never breaks. She never breaks. This is just who she is as a human being.
No. And, you know, so is introduced a new character, Taylor Kelly. Taylor Kelly, they could never make me hate you. This woman is a diva. She's an icon. We will not stand for Taylor Kelly hate on this podcast. To me, it's like, you know, those memes of like, we want complex female characters. You guys couldn't even handle X female character. I feel that way about Taylor. I'm like, you guys couldn't even handle Taylor Kelly. Like, I see people constantly on 911 Twitter unironically acting like because she wanted to air the footage of like Bobby on LSD that she like deserves to die and is the worst person on the show. And it's like, I'm sorry, but like, do you guys not like interesting things happening in your story? Like,
literally,
what kind of what kind of sanitized thing are they even looking for? Like, would a story where everybody makes the right choice all the time be interesting? No.
I swear to God, there has to be another scene down the line that was like a big falling out moment with a lot of fans and Taylor, because I have seen that scene referenced a lot, and I was watching this episode, and I'm like, is that it? Is that why people hate like, no, literally why? I get maybe she and Buck aren't super compatible for this reason, but like, is that especially the way people describe it, in the way that like a lot of like things that characters that people don't like do are hyperbolized. It's like wow, you really think that Buck should have stayed with a woman that was going to sell the story of his father figure tragically murdering his own daughter and being haunted by addiction and relapsing on camera? You think she's a good influence on Buck? And it's like, did you watch the episode? First of all, it wasn't that serious. Bobby was on LSD, as were they all. He was spiked, and like...
Yeah. I'm not trying to say it was a nice or ethical thing of her to do, but it's also like, let's be real, it was a pretty sensational story from like a local news reporter's perspective. You would be like, oh shit, I gotta put this on TV. It's like, it's kind of as simple as that.
They're acting like Taylor targeted Bobby, singled him out, dug into his past, like went to Minnesota and searched through public death reports or something like that, and presented it on like national news to humiliate him and get him ousted from his job or something. Like, no, like, I'm sorry.
The angle I've heard from like 911 Twitter people is they frame it as Taylor Kelly tried to televise Bobby's suicide attempt because, you know, at the end of this episode, there's a moment where Bobby, high on LSD, is like standing on the ledge of the building precariously because he's like seeing a vision of his daughter. And I mean, I guess that's like not technically an inaccurate description of what happened, but I also think, kind of like you're saying, it's just like kind of a wild way to present the events of the episode.
It's a very uncharitable interpretation of it, especially because, like, I think there's a genuine debate to be had on whether or not what Bobby was doing in that scene could be considered a suicide attempt.
That's true.
Certainly, especially of sound mind and body. It's not like he was like, you know, inconsolable and like, this is the end and like, I have no way out and I'm just gonna jump. Like, it wasn't that narrative. Like, he was on drugs. He was hallucinating a vision of his dead daughter.
No, yeah, it kind of seemed like he was like wanted to like fly or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I also ultimately, like, I'm not saying what she did was nice. It's kind of just that, like, I don't get these people who are so allergic to characters ever doing anything wrong. I mean, I went on a whole thing about this in my video with Taylor. I like that she's kind of a break from the show's usually very sappy kind of unrelentingly earnest types of characters. I think I like that Taylor is a little more cynical and realistic and like grounded in reality. And I just think she's interesting, and I think she's fun, and I think she's a diva, and, you know, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but ultimately I am a Taylor Kelly fan.
I agree. I'm a big Taylor Kelly fan. I think we need more mean. Okay? I think, like, in a world of nice, we need some more Santanas, okay? Like, we need people to be mean.
I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, at the same time, I think people are way too comfortable being mean nowadays. But when it comes to TV shows...
Sorry, I mean on TV. On TV.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like, yes, Taylor's kind of a bitch. And you know what? Bitches are what make for memorable characters.
Period.
Do you remember the nice girl from Glee? Me neither. I don't even know what character I could be talking about, to be honest.
Who would that be? I think they all hated each other.
Tina, maybe?
I guess Marley.
See, does anybody remember Marley from Glee? No.
Let's talk about Marley.
No offense to Melissa Benoist. Nothing against her. But
we love you, Melissa. Come on the pod.
After that. But do people remember the character she played on Glee? No, not particularly. You know who people do remember?
You know who
Santana.
Santana. Okay.
Santana. Everybody else on that show who was mean.
They remember Santana and Quinn.
And Quinn.
Yeah, they remember Quinn, Rachel, Mercedes had
She was pretty mean
Mercedes
sometimes.
Mercedes, yeah, she was never malicious in the way that like other characters were, but she definitely quarreled with people, you know what I mean?
I guess Brittany was nice, but you don't remember her because she was nice. You remember her because she was stupid in a funny way.
Exactly.
And because she was bisexual.
And so you remember Taylor Kelly, not because she's not because of Taylor Kelly nice moments, like the Rue Euphoria happy moments, like it's like 1 minute long, but because she is driven, ambitious, and she's a diva, and she will step on you to get to that story.
Oh, to have Taylor Kelly step on me. Okay, actually, honestly, we're getting so sidetracked that I'm starting to get stressed because I have to edit this episode, so let's make it snappy.
I forgot this is one. Okay. This is yours to edit. Okay,
I thought you were going to say, I forgot this was an episode of a podcast that we have to stay on track for.
We're just hanging out. No, Taylor Kelly is in the basically the Metro News 1 chopper or whatever, and it's going down while she's doing traffic, and it ends up crashing into a baseball field. They go for the field, but they only make it into the stands.
Yeah.
How did this even happen?
Hard to say. Did they clarify, like, did the pilot have an emergency, or did the helicopter itself have an emergency?
I think it was a mechanical issue. I think was the problem. And so like they just started losing altitude rapidly. They're
stuck in the stands, and
they're what?
The blades are still whirring, and so it's a very treacherous
they're what in the stands?
thing.
They're what in the stands?
Did I say stuck?
Are they stuck in the Could you even say that within this chopper they might even be trapped?
Yeah, they're trapped.
Sorry,
is this joke getting old, anybody?
It's getting so old. I'm sorry. Overdoing it.
Well, the rotors are still spinning, so it's like pretty dangerous to rescue them, but whatever. Like, Buck goes in, he rescues Taylor Kelly, and then once all this has died down, Buck is just standing there talking to her, and he's kind of starstruck, because I guess this is the person he listens to every morning, giving him his traffic updates. And so he's like, wow, Taylor Kelly in the flesh. And immediately it's like, okay, so maybe this is like Buck's new crush, even though he's not technically broken up with Abby. He seems to have a thing for redheads, maybe.
I think he does, but it's just fascinating watching him talk to Taylor. Like he's like at like a fan convention meet and greet, and he's meeting his like favorite vlogger for the first time or whatever.
It's honestly a likable dynamic. I think I also liked in this episode that Buck was kind of like not in control. I found it fun the way he just has like a schoolboy crush on Taylor Kelly the whole episode.
Yeah, I agree. I also love it when Buck is not in control. I love the seedlings here of Buck Taylor, because I thought they were such a power couple when they were together on the show.
Yeah, like I would love to have her back, not as his love interest, but I would love for them to be like antagonistic frenemies.
Bisexual frenemies, yes.
Bisexual frenemies, yes.
I love that, because also, I mean, Taylor, listen, we know she's into women too.
I just feel like it would fit.
It fits. It's her energy. It's her essence.
But oddly enough, after this call is done, we cut to Hot Priest, and I think he's like doing mass, right? At church.
There's some God stuff happening. And yeah, he's like giving his service, and it seems like they've dedicated the service to like Bobby's daughter and like sort of the memory of her, because as he says after the service is over and he's talking with the priest, who's hot and gay, she would have turned 13 today. Yeah,
Brooke Nash, Bobby's dead daughter, would have turned 13.
Yeah. And her last school project, he's like reflecting on it. It was like a show and tell. She was like showing off her dad, the hero firefighter.
How ironic.
That was like one of his last memories of her. Yeah. It's so sad. His life story is so sad.
Yeah, this is a sad Bobby episode. You're like, damn, his life sucks.
Yeah. This show is so manipulative, making me sympathize with this man.
What? How do you mean?
I'm joking.
Okay. We have a Bobby auntie on the show?
Not at all. I love my dad. My dad. I love my dad and his horrible life. But we cut from that. It's like a really short scene with just him talking to the priest. He's, expositing a little bit. And then guess who should arrive at the 118's firehouse but the one and only Taylor Kelly. And she's got a cameraman.
And she looks good.
Oh, she looks good.
I'm sorry, I just, this is like my little fashion segment where I occasionally will be like, this female character is dressed to the nines. She's got like her cute little like ribbed white t-shirt. She's got on the wide leg dark pants, which you already know I like because I liked them on Abby. And I like them on Taylor, too. She's got the heels. She looks amazing. And she has brought, like, her little news crew into the firehouse. Bobby comes up, and he's like, you can't film here. And Taylor says, oh, haven't you heard? She's like, I guess you must not have talked to the chief yet. They didn't call you yet. And it turns out she has already cleared this with the fire chief. And, much to the chagrin of Bobby. But all the other firefighters seem pretty down to participate in this little news feature that Taylor has decided to do on the 118.
I mean, that's very Taylor's personality, is to kind of go over the head of the person that she's actually doing the report on, the story on, and instead go to basically the person that will actually give her permission to do that, and then just like do the story on them whether they want to or not. This is just kind of her whole MO as a journalist. I do love as she's walking into the firehouse, she's like talking to like her cameraman, and she's like, oh, please tell me there's a Dalmatian around here somewhere.
Yeah, I took note of that too. Great line.
Dalmatian mentioned. And Buck swoops in, of course, the minute she shows up, and Bobby goes off to talk to the chief, and they start flirting. They have a vibe. It's it's hot. They're both hot. And as they're sort of like they're palling around a little bit, who should swoop in? And this could be nothing, but who should swoop in but one Edmundo Diaz?
Right. It's funny. You get like a tiny little twinge of like maybe Buck's jealousy is still there, but they don't really address it at all, or it doesn't really keep going. It's just a tiny little moment.
It's like up in the air, but like you see Eddie coming in, and it does kind of for a moment feel like they're setting up maybe a love triangle between Buck and Taylor, and maybe Eddie and Taylor, or maybe even a closed triangle of some sorts. Who's to say? It doesn't really it doesn't go that route for a while anyway. So
Teddy, shout out to all my Teddy shippers.
Teddy. This is just, I love that one little segment on this pod is just coming up with ship names for two characters that no one has ever shipped before.
Yeah.
Like, who is out here writing Taylor Kelly Eddie Diaz fanfic? Like, I don't think that's a pairing that's ever been written.
I bet there's at least one fan fiction out there that involves some crossover, sort of just like accidentally because of like,
oh sure,
Buck and Taylor being a thing.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's like one of those things where like people ship two characters because they think they're independently hot and want to imagine them together. I could see Taylor sort of being the Zendaya to their Josh O'Connor and Mike Faced. Oh, I was so wondering where you're going with that, because I was just thinking about her and Tom Holland engagement announcement.
What do you take me for? Although, congratulations. If Zendaya and or Tom Holland are listening, congratulations to the happy couple.
Yes. Much respect to you guys.
They're First Respodcast listeners. That's like another one of our running jokes, is pretending that very famous people listen to this.
What do you mean pretending? I fully believe the delusion, okay?
You're right.
Zendaya, tell us about Dune 3.
Hi, Zendaya. Hi.
How's Euphoria going, girl?
Probably
is season
bad,
3 happening?
Okay, so she's filming at the firehouse.
Yeah.
She's filming at the firehouse. There's also an interesting line here where Hen mentions that the story of how Chimney got his nickname is, quote, not one you can tell on TV.
So that'll give us a hint.
Yeah, maybe there's some vulgarity to the Chimney name story, although they seemed ready to tell it to Christopher, who's a child, so who knows.
Do you think Chimney got his nickname the same time Buck got christened Firehose?
Maybe. But did Buck christen himself Firehose, do you think? That seems like something Buck 1.0 would do.
But that woman did say, is that why they call you Firehose? And he goes, nope. And so it's implying a third party. So
True,
maybe...
but maybe that's just what he tells people to make it less embarrassing that he gave himself a nickname.
Which is... I'm just... How can we make Buck the most pathetic person on the planet?
It's fun. It's fun to do. He's like my little doll.
Yeah. That you just like to kick around.
Well, then we go into this sort of montage of Taylor and her crew getting interviews with a bunch of different 118 members. So we get, and it's all kind of in character. Like Hen is giving like a very kind of emotional speech about how she decided she wanted to be an EMT when she was shot as a teenager and had great EMTs taking care of her, which funnily enough, this is basically completely retconned in this same season, like a few episodes later. Because in Hen Begins, in that episode, they show that she decided to become an EMT as an adult when she helped resuscitate her life coach. So like, they didn't necessarily say that like the shooting thing never happened, but it does seem like that being the direct reason she became an EMT is not actually the case. Maybe
I'm just going to give them some leeway here. Maybe that was the story that she tells for the camera. Because it's very inspirational. And I feel like that wouldn't be out of character for Hen to be like, you know what, camera's on me. My son's going to watch this someday. Let me give a really inspirational story to lift people up.
It's not like the life coach thing wouldn't have been inspirational.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's something about like I was 16, I got hit by a stray bullet, and these paramedics they saved my life, but their kindness and their heart.
That's what kept me alive.
Like
Imagine
I feel like
she just
totally
made the whole
something
thing up.
Hen would do. Right.
She's just fucking with them.
Hen and Karen get divorced, and then Karen does an expose like, yeah, she lied about that.
Like the Grey's Anatomy writer who faked having cancer. No.
Oh my God, I forgot about that story.
I just like take any opportunity to bring that up. It's my favorite thing. One of the funny things I thought in this montage is like the melodramatic in-universe editing. You know, like when Hen is giving this little speech, they've got like the intense music playing. They've got sort of a dark color grade over it. They'll cut from her talking to like some B-roll of her sort of hanging her head. So that's the Hen segment of it. Then you've got Eddie. I thought Eddie's part was funny because I thought he was giving the most realistic like workplace answer. It's like the kind of answer you give in a job interview where he's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, well, the thing I missed the most about being in the army was the camaraderie. And here I get a lot of that and I have a great team. It's like, like you would think he has media training, you know? But then Chimney is saying he has a funny moment where he's like, you know, every kid wants to be a firefighter when they grow up, especially a hot firefighter, and then hands them a copy of his calendar and goes, that's for you, take it.
This just has to be his move from now on, because like it hit so well with Tatiana on their little making amends lunch date that like
now he's just giving it out to everyone.
He's just carrying one around. Like I'm sure he's probably given one to Maddie at some point by now.
I hope so. I mean, maybe like when he got a place in the calendar, they sent him like 100 free copies and he's just trying to get rid of them. Notably, in this montage, another thing that happens is, you know, we cut to Chimney is standing around this table covered in like baked goods and stuff. And Taylor's like, what's this? And he's like, oh yeah, this is, you know, tokens of gratitude from all the people we saved. They love to send us baked goods and cards. And, you know, Buck is like stuffing a cupcake into his mouth and he keeps talking about carbs.
In one bite, he eats this cupcake.
This is why, I have a very specific gripe with 911 to share right now, which is that in season 7, there is a deleted scene. You might be like, Jane, you can't complain about a deleted scene because it got deleted, so there's literally nothing to be mad about. But there was a deleted scene of Hen and Karen coming and like interrogating Tommy at the medal ceremony, right? That happens in like the last episode of season 7, or maybe second to last episode. And, you know, it's supposed to be like a cute, funny scene where they go up to Tommy and they're like, what are your intentions with Buck? And it's like, we already don't like Tommy, so, you know, whatever. But to be fair, when I first saw this, I wasn't like a major Tommy hater. He says there's just a one-off line in this scene where Tommy mentions that Buck is on the keto diet. And ever since ever since seeing that, I have been so mad because I'm like, Evan Buckley would never go on the keto diet. I know that for a fact. In our last episode, I went on a little rant about how I hate diet culture, but I really do. And it pains me to think that my boy, my little guy, would be on keto. And I believe that there is textual evidence from throughout the show to say that Buck doesn't care about stuff like that and would not do it.
And this is a key example.
He was talking about his body fat percentage in episode 1, but other than that,
sure. But that was to prepare for a calendar. Like it's like preparing for a bodybuilding competition. Like you're gonna monitor that for that, you know, but not in your day to day.
Or like even so, I want to believe that like the ways he stays fit are like not so much diet related because he's, you know, he loves carbs. He loves eating his, literally the whole thing in keto is that you can't have carbs. And we have a scene in this episode where he's like, I'm obsessed with carbs. And also closer to season 7, I also noticed on my last rewatch, there's a scene in season 6 when he starts drinking like green smoothies because he wants the quality of his sperm to be good so that he can be a sperm donor. And he mentions, I think it's like before his friends know what he's doing. So he's talking about, you know, somebody sees him drinking a green smoothie and he's like, oh, I'm trying to be healthy. And Hen says to him, Buck, your idea of healthy is a side salad. So I believe that also makes it canon that he doesn't care about like, you know, not eating any junk food or whatever.
No, I agree. I mean, like we've seen scenes of him like, you know, going through an episode and like, you know, whipping out baked good after baked good just to sort of deal with shit, you know, like.
Well, yeah, I'm like, were those keto breads? I doubt it.
Were those keto brownies? Were they keto cupcakes? Like I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, Mr. Buckley.
So if I wanted to be mean, I could say in my head maybe Tommy was having him do keto because he was a keto guy, and in which case that gives me the Tommy ick even more, even though I just made that up in my head.
But you're right about that because Tommy seems exactly like the kind of guy to not only be really into keto, but also to like makes like passing judgmental remarks to their partner.
You're so right.
About like, you know, little things like that just like needle them in like the direction that they want them to go. And like those little manipulative tactics. Like, oh, I'm sorry. As we're talking about this, I'm getting a bigger ick for Tommy than I ever have.
That is like such an important part of being a shipper is giving yourself the ick for the character you don't like.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, like no, but like we've all known people that like have said things about like food or like they've like said things about their like unhealthy relationships with food that have like made us self-conscious. You know, like I like that in this scene, Buck is stuffing his face. I think it's funny, and I think he's a giant idiot oaf of a man, and I think this perfectly illustrates that. I love him being a little goblin, and I almost just got a Charlie horse. Oh my god, I almost just got a Charlie horse talking about this episode.
That's crazy. I have it in my notes, the lines about the Charlie horse. Anyway, for all I know, I might even cut out that whole rant and make it like a separate thing of like, for all the Tommy haters.
Oh man, it's season 2 tangents.
For all the Tommy haters.
Season 2 tangents.
Yeah. Anyway, so he's really eating the cupcake, and Chimney is explaining how they receive baked goods from the people they've helped, which, you know, just log that away in your head because it's going to be important later. From there, we go to a 911 call at an exotic pet store eating contest, which is an odd event, right?
Yeah.
I love this 911 call because it's like an older lady on the phone, and she just says, you know, we've got a guy here who's not doing very well. And they say, what do you mean by that, ma'am? And she says, he's just not doing very well. I truly think about that all the time.
Yeah, Sandy of Sandy's Exotic Creature fame is taking a very mellow approach to this seeming medical emergency unfolding at this eating contest, which we're not sure exactly right off the bat what kind of eating contest it is. One assumes hot dogs, because that's the famous one, is like the Nathan's hot dog eating contest.
Yeah, the 118 get there and Buck starts spouting off facts about Joey Chestnut and how many hot dogs he's eaten at the hot dog eating contest. And I was like, wow, he's so me. I love him.
Buck is so on the spectrum for that. Like
he loves to rattle off random information, and I love him.
As someone who's on the spectrum, let me just say, I too like collecting information and sharing it with people in weird times.
Mm-hmm.
But what's fun is that they roll up and there's a fucking monitor lizard.
Yeah.
There's a fucking monitor lizard on a leash in a harness named Claude.
They get jump scared by Claude the monitor lizard. And it turns out...
And he's the grand prize.
It turns out this is a eating contest that, first of all, the grand prize is a monitor lizard named Claude. Second of all, the stuff that you have to eat in this eating contest are only foods that Claude the lizard would eat. So it's like a fear factor kind of situation where everybody's eating bugs.
Yeah. Because it's proteins and everything.
Yeah, crickets and cockroaches and whatever. And so the guy in medical distress has, like, I think he's got some bugs blocking his airway. It's very gross. They have to get the little, the thingy, the whatever that tool is to go into his throat, like forceps, basically.
And they have to pull out, like, a mass of crickets that are, like, lodged in there. It's so disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, you see crickets flying out of his mouth. What other show on the planet has a side story involving every main character concerning a guy who ODs on live crickets? This show is so nasty sometimes.
Well, and they do even more of like a blatant gross out moment where there's like another lady at the eating contest and they just have her like vomit up a bunch of cockroaches.
Yeah, she's like, hey, that fucking loser, he lost. He's not in the contest. And cockroaches like come out of her mouth, basically.
Okay, there's also a funny moment where Claude the monitor lizard like kind of jumps at Taylor and, you know, freaks her out. And then the owner
like
of the
pet store,
he wants uppy. The owner of the pet store is like, oh, he likes you. He likes redheads. I was like, he's so Buck.
He's so funny for that. And honestly, Buck and this lizard probably have a similar level of intelligence, let's be honest.
Well, I think Buck and Claude could be besties. Like, I think Buck should take Claude home, his new pet.
I agree. Claude would be his small child that he would care for, and they'd go on like little runs together. Buck would take him to Santa Monica Pier.
He would like put him in one of those baby wraps that you like have around your chest.
He'd have one of those like Instagram accounts, like those pet Instagram accounts, and he'd become like a pet influencer. Okay, this is just a sidebar. I'm sorry to tangent. I know this is your episode.
It's okay.
But when I was working at my coffee shop where I managed, this one couple came in. 2 lesbians, and they were the lesbian influencer moms of an influencer turtle.
Oh.
And they had the turtle with them. And
wow.
And so I have a picture of me at work behind the counter holding apparently a very famous influencer turtle.
Wow, I need to see that.
I can't post it anywhere because it has the logo of my old store in it, and I don't want to put that on the internet.
Yeah.
But I so let me just say, Buck, first of all, enter the contest because we know you can eat. We know you can put it away. Second of all, win the lizard, and third, make him famous. A star is born.
Yeah, fourth, profit. For the record, I don't know anything about like the ethics of keeping monitor lizards as pets, so don't take this as us necessarily endorsing people keeping wild monitor lizards as pets.
Yeah, I do think they work better in zoos.
Probably.
There are lizards that make good pets. You know, a bearded dragon is a great family pet. I've heard an iguana.
Oh, Buck would love a bearded dragon.
An iguana can be a good like yard pet. You know, geckos, of course.
Yeah, gecko, maybe a salamander.
Yeah, or a skink of some variety, perhaps. but probably not like, you know, a Gila monster or something.
Probably not a Komodo dragon.
Exactly.
Have you ever read? Okay, this is one of my like Buck Wikipedia wormholes. Is sometimes I've read just stories about people who have died by Komodo dragon.
Oh, yeah.
It happens. They just like eat people sometimes.
Yeah, straight up. So they'll bite you, it'll get super infected, and then they'll just hunt you down and they'll eat you like until there's not a whole lot of you left.
And like that's just crazy to me that there's just like a big lizard walking this earth that could take you down. That doesn't feel right. but I love that for them.
They eat a lot of rotting flesh too, so when they bite you, it gets like really infected really fast. It's like gross.
I see. Well, listen, waste not, want not. That's what the Komodo dragon understands.
Exactly, and that's what Claude understands. And you know what? He remains unwon, so he lives with Sandy of Sandy's Exotic Pets fame.
I hope that maybe at the end of this episode, when Sandy was presumably arrested, maybe Claude got to go live in the zoo in a nice big enclosure alongside the man-eating tiger.
I was just thinking that alongside the mating, they can bond over eating men together. Team Kobe.
To be fair, I did try to look this up. I don't think monitor lizards eat people.
No, some of them are toxic though.
Oh yeah, true.
They do have like a venomous bite. But we go from that to Athena at home.
Yes.
They're doing dishes, and
Bobby is complaining about Queen Taylor Kelly, because he's not an ally.
Like a jackass, he's he's like, what is with this woman coming into my fire station and shoving a camera in my face? And Athena, she's a cop, so she's just like, and let me tell you about body cams.
This didn't happen in the episode.
Okay. She does. No, okay, but it kind of does, because she does mention, like, Big Brother's always watching, and she, like, specifically mentions a couple of sources like CCTV, and she mentions body cams. I'm like,
does she actually? I must have missed that. Damn.
Oh, she mentions body cams. I'm like, Athena, you're a cop.
Athena, body cams are not a bad thing.
I mean,
that's
listen,
crazy, actually.
There's a reason Athena didn't want body cams, okay?
And we all know the reason.
So she can stalk and arrest more teenage girls. Exactly.
That's crazy that Bobby came to her and was like, man, I just really feel like my privacy is being invaded by having this person film in my workplace. And Athena's like, you think that's bad?
Wait till you hear about my job.
I'm being held accountable for my actions as someone who has authority over everyone else.
Yeah. Don't get me started. But we move on from that. A very, very short interaction.
Outside of her professional life, she is being a great mom to her daughter, May, who is getting ready for homecoming. She's bought a cute little dress. She says she's dieting, which, again, I hate that. But Athena, luckily, says, she's like, I told her she didn't have to do that. It doesn't really come up again. I'm like, girl, May, cut that out.
Well, it was like to the point where she was like skipping like a ribeye steak at dinner, and it was like, girl,
it was short rib. Yeah,
no homecoming dress is better than short rib.
Come on, May.
I'm sorry, especially a Bobby Nash short rib. Stop.
She's gotten her cute little homecoming dress, and this becomes kind of a triggering moment for Bobby. He tells her, you look beautiful, but he has to leave because he feels like this is just too close to home about his dead daughter, who would have been 13 this year. So he kind of leaves the house, and Athena catches up to him, and they have a nice moment where she's like, he makes very clear, he's like, it's not your fault that I feel this way. And she's like, yeah, but I like still, feel for you and want to be there for you. So I like that for them.
I have to say, I have to mention this, but May's dress is absolutely gorgeous. It's like a really...
I thought it was kind of plain.
Really? Oh, no, I thought it was like, just like...
I thought it looked very nice on her, and I thought it made a lot of sense for a homecoming dress, but it didn't really stick out to me as, it was just like an all solid color, like very kind of plain cut dress.
No, I thought it was so simple and tasteful. It was like strapless, but it was the gorgeous like the navy blue color with the hair pulled back and everything. It was just, oh my god, I thought it was so stunning.
I thought it was more of a cobalt blue, which is actually one of my least favorite blues.
Oh, it may have been like somewhere more in that range, but I just thought it was so pretty.
Anyway, this doesn't matter.
But Bobby's really struggling with missing his kids. Athena's a born multitasker and wants to care for him while also celebrating her own kids and raising them and everything, and she feels like she can do all of that. So we cut from the Athena scene to
a very fun call.
Oh, this one's for me. This one's for me. This one's for me.
Cut to, it says on a banner, we're on the beach, and there's a big banner that says Los Angeles Bodybuilding Regionals. And it's a bodybuilding competition. It's
God, it's regionals. Do you think Vocal Adrenaline's gonna show up?
Yeah, they probably did have a lot of ripped guys on Vocal Adrenaline.
But this call is just, it's so good.
It's so good.
So you have these 5 absolute hunks, and they're all obviously, like roided up, bodybuilder
They're all
types.
roided up, but one guy in the middle is like way bigger than anybody else. He looks crazy. He kind of looks like John Travolta on steroids, is what I wrote in my notes.
He does, like literally on steroids.
Yeah.
I will say, I do, as a gay person and as a cultural tastemaker and as a lover of art, I do feel the need to judge this bodybuilding contest from my own tastes. And so let me just say, I think like the top 2 for me right now are like the hunky guy on the far left and the black shorts. He was just like, his face was just so gorgeous, and his body was so nice.
This is truly the difference between you and I, because I did not even look at any of them other than the main guy that the action was happening to. I could not tell you what any of them looked like, or certainly not what they were wearing.
Well, let me tell you, because the 4th guy, he comes up and he's got this like sort of nice like classic swoop in his hair. He's got this like armband tattoo with these blue shorts on, and he's just and so like they were like battling it out for my heart. Those 2 guys were, to be honest.
All right.
I was enjoying myself immensely watching the scene, but then
I'm glad to hear it.
One of them, the one in the middle, John Travolta, he gets a little stuck. Would you say? You
could say he gets stuck. I wrote in my notes, he just got stuck. Yeah, they're doing the part where somebody's calling out like, do this pose, now do this pose, and he gets stuck on just flexing his biceps and he can't move. And, he starts screaming. So somebody calls 911. And I think on the phone, somebody says like, yeah, I'm at the whatever sweat hot bods bodybuilding competition. And one of the guys just got stuck. Once again, it's like, shouldn't this be in the stuck episode? But the 118 gets there.
But also not missing a beat to plug your own event.
Yeah. They're like, by the way, it's a great bodybuilding competition. Maybe you guys should come check it out.
Entries are still open. And so as they're rolling up, as the 118's rolling up, the theme music from the closing credits is once again used as score. And it is very jarring. I guess the composer for the episode scores just took the day off. Which is always what it feels like, to be honest, when they use the theme music as score. And it so does not fit with the tone of the rest of the episode, or even just the rest of this call.
No, I wouldn't say so.
That's just like, it's so jarring.
They start trying to help the guy, and first of all, they have to have Taylor Kelly take a step back because, the guy is embarrassed to admit that he's on steroids in front of her. But of course, they need to know that if they're going to treat him. And once she's gone, he immediately reveals that, yes, he is on steroids. And they mention, they say what's happening to him. And they're like, he's basically having a terrible Charlie horse. And Chimney says he is a Charlie horse. And then they say, what's your name? And he says, Charlie.
Charlie.
It was like the stupidest joke, but I thought it was so funny.
It was so stupid, but it was funny. I love this show. It's so corny like that.
I know.
Poor Charlie is having the worst day of his or possibly anyone's life. I get Charlie horses.
He's having worst day ever.
He's having his worst day ever. I get Charlie horses like all the time, just like when I don't remember to drink water. I literally got one while we were recording. And let me just say, not fun. I don't like them. I was looking around to see if this has ever happened to anyone, and Google fell short, didn't find anything, and I didn't find anything in the trivia section on IMDb either.
No, the trivia section for this one was weird.
It was very sparse. And I did find that, it's true that Charlie horses can happen in any muscle of the body. So this hypothetically could happen if you push your body to its limits. But also, I had a Buck Wikipedia moment where I fell down a little rabbit hole looking for the origins of the term Charlie horse.
Ooh, yeah, do tell.
Okay, so let's talk about this because apparently the term goes all the way back to the days of ye old baseball. It directed me to this HuffPost article where in a July 1886 issue of a West Virginia newspaper called the Wheeling Daily Intelligencer, quote, baseballists have invented a brand new disease, the, quote, Charlie horse. It consists of a peculiar contraction and hardening of the muscles and tendons of the thigh to which ball players are liable from the sudden starting and stopping and chasing balls. Jack Glasscock is said to have originated the name because the way the men limped around reminded him of an old horse he once owned named Charlie. Wow. Spelled like that.
That is actually fascinating.
It is fascinating.
I also want to say, what year did you say this was?
1886.
Well, in 1886, people were not drinking enough water.
That's true.
Anyway, we've just about run this into the ground, I think.
Yes, we have. The episode, to be honest. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But this he's having a full body Charlie horse, you know, like if I was this guy, I would send the firefighters away. I'd ask for a cop to shoot me with his gun or something. Cause it sounds like a nightmare, you know?
Yeah, it does sound rough. From there, we get back to the firehouse and Taylor kind of waves Buck up to the loft area to talk to her. She kind of wants the intel on Bobby. She's like, what's his deal? Why is he always so strict? And Buck's like, no, he's just, distrustful of you. But, Buck, he talks about like, Bobby's so great and he inspires me every day. I had to write in my notes, Buck is so corny.
Buck
but in
is
a way
so
that
corny.
I love. But he is really corny. He just like goes into like Disney Channel original movie mode for a minute. And he's like, Bobby is such an amazing guy. And he inspires me every day.
He has such a line for that too, because Taylor's talking about this, like her job is to get the story and whatnot. And Buck says, and I quote, to him, we're not the story. We're just here to make sure no story ends before it should.
Yeah.
Which feels... That's a line like straight out of like a high school monologue competition or something. Like I love like the saccharine sincerity of it. And honestly, this show in general, I love this show.
Yeah.
The show's so earnest.
Well, then we revisit suddenly a thing that we haven't visited since the beginning of the episode, which is Maddie's storyline. She's at work and she gets a call that appears to be like a domestic violence situation where someone is too afraid to say anything. And it really triggers Maddie. And, eventually the person hangs up, but she really kind of freaks out. And I wrote down, like, I feel like triggers are a theme of this episode, weirdly enough.
Oh, yeah, because with Bobby and then with Maddie. And okay.
I was trying to remember if there is an episode of 911 called Triggers, because I feel like maybe there is, but I can't remember.
Could you imagine if, like, at the height of, like, the new crop of, like, quote, woke cringe or whatever, they made an episode called Trigger Warning or something like that?
But it's like, in the genuine meaning of the word, these people are getting triggered.
Maybe that would have been a little bit genius in like a 5D chess kind of way. I don't know.
It would have been, yeah. But Boss of the Year, Sue Blevins, notices all this happening.
Boss of the Year.
She goes to the break room to talk to Maddie. And I think I said this in my video. I love Sue Blevins. I love how much she looks out for her employees. And I love how she's always telling people to go to therapy, because in this scene, she's like, I just want to make sure that you're like supported mentally. And, we have resources to deal with the stress of the job. And it's like, Sue Blevins, she cares.
I also love the way that she owns any room that she goes into. Like she enters the break room and she like gestures to like someone off screen. And she's like, it's like saying like out. And they just fucking leave.
Gets the message. She, Maddie starts telling her about how she's just feeling kind of like we were saying at the beginning of the episode. She's just feeling like even though she ran so far from Doug, she feels like it still wasn't far enough. And she's still kind of haunted by this threat hanging over her all the time, kind of foreshadowing that like the only way to get rid of Doug will be to kill him.
Yeah,
like
literally.
only then can she rest.
Which is an interesting plot detail, because it's like it makes sense for Maddie's story, but like I can't help but wonder how it would be watching this storyline, you know, play out as someone who's lived through a similar situation and, you know, has taken initiative to, you know, leave their abuser and move to a new place. Would in a way this be kind of, this storyline be validating that fear that like he's always going to be around the corner or something? That's a question I have with like storylines like this in general. Like in that movie, I just almost got a Charlie horse again. In that movie, The Invisible Man, like these storylines that are sort of all about this.
Someone having to confront and kill their abuser.
Yeah, it's like
kind of implies that, yeah, like they'll never stop until they're dead, which is, yeah, maybe not a comforting thought for people in those situations. Yeah, I'm sure they don't mean anything by it, but yeah, I wonder, like in a broader sense, if that's kind of has that effect.
Definitely, like, and I'm just like, I'm genuinely like asking this very curiously. I have no critiques of this storyline beyond the question of how it reads as someone who's lived through that experience and, I mean, presumably hasn't had to kill their abuser.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just curious how that would read, just in general. So that's an open question to the universe.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does. I mean, this is like it. You know, it's really interesting because like for the last couple episodes, we haven't really seen Maddie dealing with, you know, the sort of Damocles of Doug sort of hanging over her head in this direct way, and so now we're giving it some spotlight again, and it's really nice to see this sort of bonding moment between her and Sue, and you know, like you said, Sue is just really like the boss of the year in this scene.
Yeah, well, we go from that very serious thing to a very unserious scene, which is chimneys at the firehouse. We're told we're on hour like 21 of a 24-hour shift, and he's all excited to eat one of the trays of baked goods that someone has left, but he finds it's empty, and everybody around him is like, oh yeah, it was amazing, it was fudge. They say it was fudge with nuts. This is confusing to me because they say it's fudge, and then in every other scene referencing it, they say it was brownies. So I'm like, was it brownies or was it fudge?
They were fudge brownies.
Were they confusingly using fudge as a shorthand to mean brownies? Because no, fudge is its own dessert.
But I thought fudge brownies were a thing. I'm looking this up.
Maybe, but I feel like you have to distinguish because, like, you know, my aunt just like makes fudge for family gatherings, like as its own dessert, you know, that's chocolate and that has nuts in it. So that's just its own thing.
Okay, no, Jane, fudge brownies are a thing. I'm seeing so many recipes for, quote, fudge brownies.
Well, brownies are fudgy, so that's a word associated with them. But you can't just say fudge and expect people to know you're talking about brownies. Mix,
you would have to specify. Triple fudge brownie mix,
little
bites, fudge brownies, great value fudge brownie mix, Walmart branded. I'm sorry, I'm not going to argue with all these brands. I think they were just eating fudge brownies.
Oh, I'm Ryan, and I just take the word of every corporation that tells me something is true.
You know what? And I do. And I stand beside that.
And I do.
They were all in the same room and they made it out alive.
Listen, we'll see where the audience lands on this, because we know I'm the favorite.
Okay, so audience, tell us in the comments, are fudge brownies a thing?
I'm not saying they're not a thing. I'm just saying if you are referring to them, you have to say fudge brownies. You can't just say fudge, or else I will assume you're talking about the separate dessert that is just fudge.
Well, I understand that fudge is its own dessert, but I feel like fudge brownies makes a bit more sense because, like, how popular is fudge? I must ask.
We are talking around each other, Ryan. We are talking around each other because I'm not saying fudge brownies don't exist. I'm saying if that's what they were talking about, they would have had to say both of those words, not just fudge.
But they did say both of them. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, they said both of those words separately, like in different scenes. Wait. They didn't say fudge brownies. They said it's fudge. And then later they said it was brownies.
I'm going to use context clues. Did she say the dessert was fudge? Or did she say it's fudgy? Or like it's fudge in like to mean it's fudgy?
I'm pretty sure they said it's fudge.
Because I hear it's fudge with nuts. My mind goes to brownies.
And then doesn't Chimney say I love fudge with nuts? Fudge with nuts is just fudge with nuts. It's not brownies in and of itself.
I think it's a category of the brownies. I think it's like these brownies are fudge with nuts brownies. It's like this is a blondie with lemon.
To say the word brownie for that to be communicable.
Okay.
God.
Well,
you know that meme of the two like ancient Greek philosophers talking to each other? I feel like that's what we're doing.
You know how someone said Statler and Waldorf?
Yeah, that's also what we're doing.
I think what we're actually doing is Gene Haskell and Roger Ebert.
Gene Siskel, you mean?
Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. Sorry. I only care about Raji.
This guy doesn't even know what he's talking about.
I only care about Raji.
If we were Statler and Waldorf, we'd be like, I say, when the fudge is this episode gonna be over?
When the fudge is this episode gonna be over? Probably when they go nuts. Oh,
that was good. That was better than mine.
Thank you.
All right. Well, anyway, they're all eating the fudge and or brownies that I guess we'll never know if it was fudge brownies because they didn't say that.
Can we agree on something that down the road they establish that it was brownies?
Yes, they do.
Even if that means a retcon. Even if it means a retcon, they do establish brownies.
All right. Well, okay. So then they all get a call and everybody leaves except for Bobby because they explain, the call they've gotten, it's a simple med call. So Bobby doesn't need to be here. He's going to finish up the shift back at the station. So Taylor stays
the
behind
vulture.
With Bobby. And
the goddamn media vulture sees her chance and pounces.
Taylor stays at the firehouse for a chance to exploit Bobby while everybody else goes to respond to this call.
Yeah.
And what do you know? As Taylor sits down to talk to Bobby, she realizes that he's acting a little strange. He says something like, everything has meaning, or like everything, whatever, even this napkin. And he starts doing the thing where he's like, there's an entire universe inside this napkin. He says, I wrote down the line, these are specks of chocolate and entire worlds at the same time.
This is beyond strange. Like, this is just pure shroomy behavior. Like, give him another second and he's going to start talking about like the spectral goblins that control the stardust that makes up the waves of time or something like that. He's going to start, we're talking about fractals.
I loved Bobby tripping though, because it's so Bobby, he's still just like this calm Midwestern man, but he's saying stuff that doesn't make any sense. So he, Taylor and her crew are like, okay, that's odd. And then they look around and notice that all of the other firefighters are also clearly tripping. One of them is like sticking his head in a lampshade, they're all kind of falling over and laughing and stuff.
They've been dosed. We
cut to our other firefighters in the truck. It's Buck, Eddie, and Chimney are in the back of the fire engine. And Eddie's like, man, allergies are going crazy right now. Chimney's like, what are you talking about?
There's a new kind of pollen.
Chimney's like, what are you talking about? And Buck's like, do you think they came up with a new kind or something? And Eddie's like,
a new kind of pollen?
What? And he says, of pollen. Which, even if they weren't stoned in that moment, that was great. And then Eddie suddenly, this is like one of my favorite lines in the episode. Eddie's like, I can see the pollen. And Buck says, I can hear it. They are hearing pollen. They're seeing pollen. They're high.
Oh,
and they get to the call.
I'm obsessed with these guys so much. I love just Buck like scenes Eddie... where like these they're just such Tweedledee and Tweedledum in this episode. I'm sorry.
They are. And that's why I really liked, it's not like a buddy episode, but all the parts with them I thought were very fun. This whole thing of like, hi, Buck and Eddie, like I need a revisit of that because they were like the best part.
Before Eddie moves to Texas, they need to like go to the desert and like do ayahuasca together or something.
Oh god.
And like
I'm just
experience ego death. That will be the thing to make Eddie gay. Ego death.
Ooh, ayahuasca made me gay. Well, also though, I'm just saying they all live in California. Let these characters smoke weed, It's totally legal.
Okay, period. It's totally they don't even legal. Need like they don't even need to drug test with like a urine sample anymore, No. They can just smoke pot on their time off.
Yeah. I would love a little bit of that to come into the story.
But there is an iconic scene incoming.
They roll up to the call, which, first of all, amazing setting for a call. It's a child beauty pageant, a la Toddlers and Tiaras. And it turns out the medical emergency that's happened is one of the pageant mothers, famously antagonistic, has, I guess, gotten into a fight with another pageant mother and gotten a high-heeled shoe impaled in her face. So she's being totally chill about it. She's like on the phone with, she's either so hopped up on adrenaline or maybe like Xanax that she is just on the phone with her plastic surgeon, totally calm.
I love trashy reality TV. I love
Me too.
When like these shows like pit, you know, two people against each other like this. And I'm just imagining like, especially the reunion drama from this, like they're at the reunion and the one woman, she's like, how was your time in jail? Oh, it was fine. How's that scar healing up? And there's like trading blows from like across the couch, and Andy Cohen's in the middle or whatever.
Oh, I can't hear you over that shoe in your face.
Yeah.
You know, Chimney, the only one who didn't eat the fudge/brownies, as you'll remember, is trying to give medical attention to this woman. And he keeps like calling back for Buck and Eddie, and they are incapacitated. They stopped right when they got through the front door. They're looking at all these tiny girls who are participating in this pageant. And Buck says something along the lines of, are these beauty queens really small, or are we giants?
I have the exact quote right here.
Yeah.
Because I wrote it down because it was so funny to me. Buck is like, he and Eddie have like these wide eyes, and they're like, did these beauty queens shrink, or are we suddenly giants?
I really love, okay, I know that I have at times criticized Ryan Guzman's acting, but I want to clarify that I did say in my video that I think he's better at comedy, and I think one example of that is I think he's really funny in this scene. I liked all his facial expressions and just little business he was doing in the background. He looked really scared the whole time, which I thought was really great.
There was this one moment after Buck says that line where his eyes get huge. It's like it's
or like, you know, there are like bunches of balloons around the room because it's like this beauty pageant setup. And like there are moments where characters will be talking and you can see in the background of the shot, Eddie is just like fumbling through the balloons.
I'm just so obsessed with their acting in this scene. Like this was far and away probably the most fun day on set for these guys.
It must have been. Yeah. Well, Athena is at the scene of this crime as well because, you know, she's been called because of the assault of it all, and she's not there. She also obviously is sober, so she's kind of like, Buck, Eddie, like, I think Chimney's asking you to go over there, and then she's like, Hen, what's going on? Hen is over like looking at herself in a mirror, and then she turns around and she's like, Athena, oh my god, and then she gets over there and she says, Athena, you smell like love.
There's something that Aisha Hines does with her face in this scene, like her expression like brightens so much in this scene. Like I can't stop thinking about it. Her face is so funny.
I get her. It's like when you're stoned and you see a person, like when you see your cat, not even a person. You're stoned and you see your cat. And you're like, oh my god. So,
did you clock how red Chim's scar is in this scene? It's like
bit.
Redder than usual. I don't know. I noticed that in the
might have been the color grade.
Yeah. It's like how sometimes Buck's birthmark is like way redder than usual.
Yeah, which I did think it was red in some scenes of this episode, so it might have been the color grade. But, you know, Athena and Chimney are starting to piece things together. Chimney says, well, it must have been the fudge or the brownies or whatever.
The what?
I was the only one who didn't eat them. Athena has a really funny line where she says, you guys eat that stuff? We just throw it right in the trash. To which Chimney says, well, we're firefighters. People love us, like implying that the only people who would try and poison people would do it to cops, not firefighters.
Exactly.
Which probably true.
Definitely true. Let's be honest.
Then we get back to the fire station. Bobby is doing the funniest thing. Bobby is like showing Taylor Child's fire-related science experiments. And when he says to her, like, hey, do you know why it did that? She's like, physics? And he says, let me do it again.
Oh, the show is so funny.
But he starts to get Taylor mixed up with Brooke, which is very emotional.
He calls her Brooke. It's like one of those sort of like blink and you miss it moments at first. And then Taylor asks, who's Brooke? You know, and she puts her reporter cap back on. Bobby, in his state, starts talking about his daughter, Brooke. He can see her sitting in that chair. He's preparing this science project with her. And so he's getting a visual hallucination of his dead daughter. Like this is how like high like of a trip this is for him, you know.
There must have been quite a bit of acid in these brownies. How do you even lace brownies with acid? Like,
I don't know.
No,
I genuinely don't know. I don't know.
Because you hear a lot about weed brownies. You don't hear so much about LSD brownies.
I'm actually going to look this up right now on air. Because the only times I have done the only times I have heard about people doing hallucinogens, I say for legal reasons, is through pills or tabs.
Right. I guess if they can be made into pills, maybe they can be put into brownies.
Oh, CBS News, October 24th, 2012. LSD found in brownies that hospitalized teenage girl. Wow. Interesting. Well, I guess it's like getting the LSD to a point where you can work it into a brownie recipe would just take some extra doing, you know?
Yeah.
It's if you just have some oil or something, then you can just like bake it into the then that's that's
I guess I wasn't sure what forms it can take because I have genuinely never dropped acid and I have only heard of it in like tab form, so I don't know like what's possible.
Yeah, but you know, Chim is wrapping up the shoe injury on the woman who got a fucking shoe through her cheek filler. I can't stop raving about that. They call it stilettos for a reason, okay? And she's like, take me to the hospital. Like, I want to go to the hospital. He's like, we will. Just give us a second. They need a second because the cops have to genuinely handcuff Eddie for his own safety.
They're handcuffing all of them, aren't they? And I wrote down in my notes, it seems unnecessary to put them in handcuffs. It's clearly just distressing Eddie, who starts to cry.
Yeah.
Buck says, oh my God, Buck says, ooh, you made him cry, which is crazy.
Ooh, you made him cry. And Eddie, like, there's something about Ryan Guzman's inhale. It's like a full lip inhale after he's like, yeah, I like that idea. He goes, and it's like his full, like, I mean, like, I'm not going to say it was lewd. All I'm going to say it was intense. And Oliver's face in this scene is so funny. He has this blank stare on his face. It's just like he's doing this very subtle LSD acting. I'm like, I need to know what life experiences he was drawing on as inspiration for this scene.
Well, they do a lot of drugs in London.
And Hen is saying that Athena's head is beating like her heart.
Yes, Hen says Athena's head is beating like her heart. I just don't think it was necessary to put them in handcuffs because she does say like it's for your safety and everyone else's. But they kind of just seemed like they were just standing around like looking at stuff. I feel like, just put them back in the back of the fire engine and take them back to the station or drive them home or whatever. Like keep an eye on them. Like
let them lie down or something.
Just like put them in the fire station in front of the TV and turn on an episode of like Planet Earth or something,
Planet Earth. Put on like, what they should put on? They should put on like a really weird, like esoteric, like anime series that hasn't been translated to English and just like watch them like have like a living nightmare for like 3 hours.
No, dude, just put on Eraserhead by David Lynch and you'll feel great. I like the creepy little slimy baby. I think he's cute.
I think he is interesting. I will say.
I think it's sad that he died.
What? Oh, sorry. I thought you meant in real life.
Yeah, the actor who played the Eraserhead baby. Yeah, he died of an overdose at age 27. It's really tragic. Okay, sidetracked. We're getting sidetracked again.
Yeah, we need to cut like most of these out.
I will. They get word that they need to get back to the firehouse. And when they do, they find that Bobby has climbed onto the ledge of the roof of the firehouse and he's just tripping so hard that he is now on the ledge of a building. So Athena goes up there and has to talk him down.
Many such cases.
Yes,
Taylor is filming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think
Taylor is filming. To be fair, I'm sorry, but I'm still kind of on their side because, of course, Athena is like, really, you're filming this? But then they say, who do you think called the police? And it's kind of like, well, yeah, like what else can they do right now but just stand there?
And I think there is something useful in filming this, like, if not just so that if things do go bad, not so that they can run off with the footage, which, she would probably do anyways. And we love her for that. But so that they could at least have a record of what happened to show people who are maybe investigating this person's death or something like that. I don't know. I think it is valuable to film things sometimes. Sorry.
True.
And sorry, Athena, anti-body cam.
Seriously.
Whatever.
But Athena gets up there and Bobby is seeing Brooke. He's like seeing her floating in the sky. And he's like, we can be together here, whatever. And Athena kind of has to be like, you have your memories of your daughter, but this isn't real. And, just be real with me in real life. And she gets him.
Be real. Oh my God. It's time to be real.
So true. So true. That's exactly what she was thinking. And she does manage to get him down from the ledge safely. And I wrote in my notes, this is why I would never do acid, as if I would get myself into this situation somehow.
What do you think of Athena's speech in this scene? What do you think of like all the words that she's saying? Because she's saying a lot of words, and to be honest, Bobby's in a state, and I'm just thinking like, you don't need to be saying all that. Just take him downstairs.
Well, I will say I was having trouble recalling what she said just now, which makes me think I do think it was kind of like a hard to parse speech, like exactly what she means by everything she's saying. But in a way, maybe that's good for someone who's tripping. She's sort of meeting him on his level and being like, I don't even know. I don't know what I think of it. It was fine.
Yeah, I feel like the last thing a trip sitter should do is just like, never mind. Well, actually, Bobby didn't have a trip sitter. I guess, Taylor should have been the trip sitter. Why did she let him get on the roof? I don't know.
Yeah,
okay, that's a strike against Taylor. She let him get up on the roof.
That's funny. I've never seen anyone bring that up, but that's actually like a valid complaint. Is like, how did like she and her camera guy let him walk all the way up to the roof? Like, did they not even? They're on the ground when they get there. So did they not even follow him up there, like to try and stop him? Okay, I still love Taylor, but I will say, strike one. I concede that was bad of her to not at least try to keep him from climbing onto the edge of the roof.
Yeah, no, I agree that we finally found one. The valid complaint about Taylor Kelly.
Yeah, wow, there you have it.
But a few days later, sort of like Athena gets him down, and then like a few days later, they've all mellowed out, and they get their tox reports back. It's LSD in the fudge / brownies / whatever it was. And they don't really know where it came from, but they're working on a trace. But it's like, I don't know, it's through the USPS. They have other stuff going on. They can't, be dealing with all that. So Taylor's report is going to run, and Athena is sort of like encouraging Bobby to like carry his head high because he's nervous about what, the world, what America's going to see, about him. And she's like, they're going to see exactly what I see, which is, someone who's strong, who carries himself well and holds his team together and has a handsome smile or whatever. And Bobby is not really having that because he is considering this situation to be a relapse, to be a genuine relapse.
It's sad because, as Athena points out, he did not fall off the wagon. He was pushed. But he sort of thinks of himself as having some responsibility because he says, it's not that I got high, it's that I want to get high again. Like, he ultimately still sort of felt the urge to use that experience brought out of him, and so feels like he's failed in some way. Yeah,
it's why it's like the same reason why like an alcoholic can't have like just one drink on a special occasion, But
again, it's not that he even then. That's not a perfect analogy because he didn't choose to be dosed with LSD.
Right, exactly. Although I do like that this is implying that one of the drugs in, Bobby's, I guess, everything that he said to his wife was LSD. Like he was just like an active psychonaut,
He was tripping balls at the on the job. I mean, he did say to his wife that he was on everything, so
Everything
stands to reason. But then
stands
we
to
see the
reason.
118 at the firehouse are setting up a little watch party to watch
Yeah.
Taylor's feature.
I mean, they do watch it. I mean, like before they sit down to watch it, they're like walking over to like the den area, and Eddie's asking Hen, "Did everything kind of sparkle?" And
Yeah.
Hen's like,
no, I wrote that down.
Hen's like, I'd say it was more like glistening, like the whole world was covered in dew. And then Eddie makes like a little like joke about Burning Man. It's just like a fun little thing, like they're acknowledging it.
I wrote that down. I said, Eddie thought the world was sparkling. Aw, sparkle on, Eddie.
Sparkle on, Eddie, heart.
Like, I love that for him.
Yeah.
I wish his world would sparkle more often, because he deserves it.
Can I be honest about something? And this is something I kind of run into with like the Bobby being a drug addict storyline. I don't know that I buy Peter Krause as an addict.
And that's what makes it so funny, Ryan. That's what makes it funny when he tells his wife that he is on every drug.
I know, but it's like
it.
I keep running into it, and it's totally just like the Minnesota nice. But like,
listen, Minnesotans use drugs too. In fact, Minnesota and Wisconsin are known for having a lot of alcoholics and drug addicts because it's so cold and miserable here.
That's true. What's that thing James Mansfield said? She's from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of beer, cheese, and serial killers.
Oh yeah, no, Milwaukee especially is where all the alcoholics are.
But Peter Krause, I feel like I need to have like a mental image of him in my head where he's like really fucked up on something, so I can just like imagine it, because I can't really picture it right now. I can't really picture him.
There's like evil Bobby in the Buck Lightning It's a Wonderful Life episode.
Yeah, and that episode was bad, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, and the Bobby part was ridiculous. Yeah, so you're right.
Like I need to drop acid with him, and then we can figure it out from there.
Maybe he's like straight edge in real life or something, and that's why it doesn't read.
Yeah, but he's probably just like a normal guy, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's probably just a normal man who likes the arts.
Listen, I would love to crack open a cold one with Peter Krause. Peter Krause, if you're listening,
Peter, come on the pod,
and we'll drink some Ham's Minnesota beer together.
That sounds great. I will be drinking.
I'll mail you some Hams.
Thank you, and I'll mail you some craft Brooklyn IPA that is flavored with orange peel and coriander.
Great. We have plenty of that in Minnesota, to be honest with you. So Bobby decides to finally bite the bullet and watch the feature. He's watching it at home, and suddenly in the feature he notices something, an interview with the woman from the exotic pet store saying she wishes she could just do something for the 118. She wishes she could give them, quote, a dose of something to lift their spirits. Which, first off, this just occurred to me. Taylor Kelly is allegedly a journalist, and she didn't watch this back and think, that seems oddly incriminating.
Yeah, that was strange, wasn't it? Maybe she was going to do more investigating into that, but when the lawyers came down, then she decided to scrap the storyline. So maybe she actually did look into it and was like, well, if I can't air it, then I'm not going to tell them.
Yeah. Well, Bobby notices this, of course, and so he and Athena roll up to the exotic pet store. They get in there. There's like a serval sitting right in the entrance, like an exotic cat.
It's like a serval or an ocelot or something, just like a really weird, unconventional cat. And it's just cute, like sitting there, like guarding the door. And they're like, it's probably like half domestic.
It's like in loaf position, like a cat.
Yeah. It's purring too. It's so cute. I just want to hold him.
I know. But again, we also don't endorse those people who keep servals as pets.
No, we do not. They make bad pets. They are wild animals. Leave them to the jungle or wherever the fuck they live.
Wherever they live. But they find the owner finally, and she's like sitting on the floor surrounded by animals. And she says, I freed my mind. Then I freed them.
She's fucking rolling, surrounded by monitor lizards. Presumably that's Claude with her.
She is tripping balls, and she has set all the animals free.
Yeah. And this is a bad situation. This is not going to work out well for her. I mean, they honestly, they kind of need to get her out of here, to be honest, because she just opened all the cages.
She says something where she's like, it's okay, I microdose. And Bobby's like, well, you gave a macro dose to my whole team. And yeah, it definitely seems like this lady has kind of lost perspective of what a microdose is. And presumably she gets arrested.
I love the phrase you go, Sandy, it seems like you really lost perspective here. When you drugged that fire station.
Sandy, you're just not doing very well. You're just not doing very well.
We need to find our center again and really hold space for that. Yeah, so Athena arrests her because, so fun fact, for all of you listening at home, poisoning someone with a drug or, you know, some other sort of substance, right, without their consent or their knowledge is a felony. Don't do it. Don't do it. And so presumably this lady is arrested. I don't know how. I don't know how they got around the fucking, like, this is like the best body security team she could have.
Yeah, they probably had to call animal control first.
Definitely. And so, but presumably they hoist her up and take her to jail. And so then we cut back to Maddie in her apartment.
Excitingly,
Maddie is sitting on her couch folding laundry, watching some Taylor Kelly, as one often
who's
does.
now doing a feature about killer mosquitoes.
And who should be at the door? Chimby, not Chimby. I was just calling them that as an affectionate nickname. I forgot that that's his ship name with Bobby.
Chimney.
Fuck. Just Chimney. Can you imagine it was both of them? They're like, I heard you're a Fujo for us or something. I don't know. No, Chimney's there and he has a gift.
And he brought Mission Impossible on DVD. Mm-hmm. Madney begins.
Maddie even has a DVD player and a popcorn maker.
Sounds so awesome. I would love to watch a movie with her.
Mm-hmm. They're going to make out. They're going to make out.
Except they're not, because we know they don't get together yet because it's a slow burn.
Right, but like just like emotionally they're like already making out as they watch the Tom Cruise movie.
Their brains are making out. Their auras are making out.
Their auras. But Buck, we go back to Buck. He's sort of going to find Taylor at her work. She's got her van and they're flirting a little bit. And he's basically just going to thank her in person, presumably also to get her number, but to thank her for not airing that footage of Bobby or anything with the LSD.
Come to find out, surprise, surprise, Taylor is just like, oh yeah, that wasn't my decision. I totally wanted to use that footage.
Career gal.
And Buck's like, wow, you're a bad person. And Taylor's like, you know what, little bitch boy, I don't fucking care. Because I just love this whole scene. Because, you know, Buck is really... I love what the show does here, because they could have had this be like totally from Buck's POV, have, you know, Buck make her feel small for doing this. But instead, the show kind of just makes them equals and says, you know, Buck doesn't like this, but Taylor feels okay about what she did, and that's okay. Taylor says, this stupid job isn't stupid to me. You don't have to like it, but you don't get to make me feel bad about it. Yas.
Exactly.
Queen.
It's like, it's an iconic scene. They're kind of an iconic pair. I mean, like, just watching this interaction, it's like they need to fuck like right now. Because the chemistry is like ridiculous. Yeah,
Buck says, well, I don't like it. And Taylor says, and I don't care. And then her like assistant or whatever comes by and says, get a room already. Which I wasn't really even thinking about them having chemistry. I was just enjoying Taylor, you know, being mean to him.
No, I agree. I really think that, like, you know, Buck is like in a point in his life where he's like, he's really stupid still. And he's also kind of pathetic because of the Abby thing. And like what he really needs is like just a dommy mommy to bully him and ruin his life, you know? Yeah,
like he was a dog in the last season and now he's a sad, wet dog.
Exactly. He just needs to be like, you know, kicked a little bit. and Taylor's got shoes.
Well, he needs to like, somebody needs to put him in one of those dog grooming things and just blow dry him until he's done.
Yeah. And
I don't mean that euphemistically. I mean it literally.
And Taylor's holding the dryer or something. I don't know. It's getting away from me. But the point is...
we never really had it, to be fair.
That is true. But there is something electric between them. And I wonder if we'll revisit that down the road. Time will tell.
Could be. You might be like, Jay and Ryan, why are you into Buck and Taylor when you like Buddy? And it's kind of like the Buck and Abby thing. It's like, we know that this isn't going to last. And we know that we ship something else as like our endgame ship, but we're just like along for the ride, you know? If we like the love interest, we're going to latch on to her for now.
Exactly. And let me put it this way. So I have like my favorite characters, you know, from like TV shows or movies or whatnot, and that I just love it when like everyone in their life is mean to them, you know. I just think that's really funny. And Buck is a big one of that for me.
Yeah. It's hard to describe, but it's sort of like how we've talked about Scott McCall before. This quote unquote Mary Sue-ism, like how it's annoying to watch characters who are constantly being gassed up all the time. Similarly, it's very endearing to watch characters who are losers and are mistreated.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like a really good character is usually a little bit of a loser. At least a little bit.
So Buddy endgame, but for now it's just kicking dogs.
Yeah. But I mean, part of the reason Buddy's so great is because they're both such losers.
Exactly. And I mean, just look at this fucking episode.
Eddie is the ultimate girl failure, and Buck is like a himbo.
Yeah, and look at this fucking episode for the way that they match each other's freak. Like, it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
And so we go from that scene, ending that little one episode storyline on a great note, to Athena. You know, she has company at the Grant household. She's put out a prosciutto board, and it seems to be a little house party before homecoming with the families, and everyone's in their sort of formal wear and everything.
Right.
Bobby comes by, and he says that homecoming wasn't really this involved when he was a younger man. Athena agrees, of course, but this is just how the kids do it nowadays. She mentions promposals. Bobby has no idea what a promposal is. And Athena, she's already shaking in her boots because she knows it's going to be something. It's going to be intense.
Yeah. So the family gathers together and they're like, let's take a picture with this nice camera Michael has. And Bobby's like, well, let me take one of all of you guys. So he does. And he even has a nice little moment with May where she loses her bracelet for a second. And Bobby finds it and he puts it back on her in a very dad way. And then, you know, he's going to take more pictures of them. And Michael's like, hey, let's like get our other friend to take one of all of us. And Bobby's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, get in here. And so the whole family, including Bobby, take some pictures. And it's like, Bobby's part of the family now. It's a great wrap up to this episode of him feeling so alone and missing his family. Is it's like, he's obviously, this will never replace his old family, but it's like he's got a new support system now. Yeah,
it's like finding something new. And Bobby really feels like he's at his best when he's sort of like in this sort of paternal role. You know, he's like he's kind of like Bobby Nash, perfect dad, except for that one thing.
Except for that one time.
And so it's good to see him thriving again. You know, he may have been forced off of the wagon. He may have been pushed to the ground a little bit, but he's, you know, picking himself back up. He's not letting himself fall susceptible to that again, as he, you know, probably would have in the past. And yeah, it's just a nice little moment of sort of growth as he continues along this journey of being accepted into the Grant household. And, you know, we know from the benefit of hindsight that, you know, will only deepen as he takes on more of a stepfathering role in these kids' lives. And it's good. It's just nice to see like the little seedlings of it here. The little, I guess, the foundation of it here.
Yeah, my final note was this show is so sappy and I love it.
Oh.
Because we just end, like, the final shot is just like Bobby's smiling face. And you're like, yeah, he has a family again.
Oh, and we love it.
Yeah, I thought this was a good one.
Yeah, I agree.
This was written by Juan Carlos Cotto, who has written a lot of episodes of the show, but I believe this was his first one.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking through his filmography, and I think he's written a lot of good episodes.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to really know sort of the essence of what makes this show good. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more of his episodes down the line. Yeah, this is, I mean, like, I was like thinking like this is a pretty well written episode. It's funny, but it's also touching. It's heartfelt, but it's also not too overly preachy about anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's good. It's got a good balance. And also, unlike some of like the last couple episodes that we've seen, there's nothing like particularly over the top or traumatizing about it.
Right. Other than the bug thing.
Yeah, but that's more like gross or like, you know, like like freak out like that sort of way. But like, you know, there's no, you know, guy being like, you know, sucked down into an escalator and, you know, that sort of like you hear like, you know, the bones crunching underneath. It's nice to have an episode that's like that's just like it's sweet and it's funny and it's just like sort of 911 at its sort of sitcom-y best.
Yeah. Now, I have to be honest with you. I feel that we've been stuck in this recording session for 2 hours now. And
I have
I'm ready
to agree.
to be unstuck.
I have to agree. I am ready to wrap it up.
So with that, we're going to bid you goodnight and drink water so that your whole body doesn't become a Charlie horse.
Once again, if you're driving and you're listening to our pod and you get into a car crash, we claim no legal liability, but we pray for your safety.
Sorry, person that happened to, that you've been put on the spot like this at the beginning and end of the episode.
You made an impression. Let's just say that.
Now all the other listeners are going to crash their cars while listening on purpose so that they can get attention too.
Oh, guys, that's so desperate. If you're going to do an emergency, just make it a little bit creative, okay? Crash a blimp. Anyways.
For legal reasons, this was a joke.
This was a joke. Good night.